WWF No Mercy was released on November 17th exclusively for the Nintendo 64 and is the final wrestling title created by the AKI Corporation. Now, given its reputation for being the greatest wrestling title ever made, it's weird to think that this game takes its title from No Mercy, a random event that takes place in October, instead of perhaps being called WWF Backlash, which would have been a much cooler name coming just after WrestleMania's console debut the year prior. Perhaps it's a reference to how Aki was taking No Mercy on the WCW, essentially putting them out of business of making wrestling games. No Mercy was the height of AKI's 6-year-long journey of refinement and overall improvement on what they had created initially for the WCW. It included the biggest and deepest roster, the best graphics that the N64 had to offer, apart from Triple H's face, and the best story mode of any other Aki game, taken directly from WCW NWO Revenge, then taken from its former title WrestleMania. On top of that, No Mercy had the deepest creative wrestler you could ask for, and lives up to its legendary title, the best wrestling game ever made, mainly down to its depth and replayability alone.
WWF No Mercy.
Following on from VVW, No Mercy included the incredibly needed running grapple system, and included attacks from both the front and behind a wrestler, as well as the return of blood, something missing from both SmackDown titles over on the PlayStation.
Shit! Weapon's bleeding already!
And were debuted a ladder match and special referee match on the Nintendo 64. There's a breakable table at ringside again, beating SmackDown 2 by 24 hours to debut this feature. Personally, I never owned an N64. Now, that does not mean that I'm immune to nostalgia, especially when it comes to this title. Instead, I'm just going to be fairly open to its charms. Over the years of people talking up this title have absolutely left an impact on my overall viewpoint on wrestling games as a whole.
Busted you open!
All that to say, after 20 years of people asking for No Mercy games to basically make a comeback, it leaves WWF No Mercy with some seriously huge shoes to fill. That being said, this time around, the AKI Corporation had some serious contenders to deal with. Not the acclaimed now ECW skinned titles, not the EA-made WCW-style slog of fighting backstage, but from within their own license. WWF SmackDown had been out an amazing 8 months before this, setting the stage not just for wrestling games to come, but for wrestling titles to move upwards, getting better every year instead of falling ass backwards with each new title. Not only was WWF SmackDown just behind Aki's wrestling title, but it was in front of it too, immediately in front. As WWF SmackDown 2, the next game in this video I'll be taking a look at, comes out the day after this one. It's probably the most Vince McMahon thing to ever happen, having two wrestling games released the day after each other. For competition, I'm sure. So where do we start with this incredible title? The roster for WWF No Mercy is legit the greatest roster from around this time period, without a doubt. Sure, SmackDown 2 has an incredible list itself, but No Mercy, just an insane level of wrestlers. From the 59 wrestlers that were present in WrestleMania, No Mercy includes an incredible 74 characters. These range from Andre the Giant's hidden inclusion, Chris Jericho's return, WCW defectors like the Radicals, ECW guys like
Steven Richards,
Taz, the Dudley Boys, and Stephanie McMahon, to the entire roster of the McMahon-Helmsley DX, including Tori. There's Patterson and Briscoe, Michael Cole, Mae Young, The Cat, Linda McMahon's only wrestling game appearance, all three faces of Foley, Cactus Jack, Mankind and Mick, the debut of Kurt Angle. The roster is insane. 25 hidden wrestlers to be discovered through story mode, championship paths, and bought from the in-game SmackDown Mall, and 14 females all on the same roster. But man, there's someone I'm just missing. I can't put my finger on it. I can't put my giant-sized hand on it. I can't put my Big Show on it. Where's the Headbangers? Creator Wrestler this time around is one of the best things to be added to any wrestling title, giving you the option to not just make your own wrestler, but allowing you to edit one of 4 alter tires that nearly every wrestler on the roster had, allowing you to create different versions of The Rock, Taker, Kane, whoever you wanted, or even jumping from one era of a star to a past one, or creating a newer look for them altogether. The 4-slot attire system also meant that guys like Kai and Tai were together in one slot, instead of taking up different roster slots altogether. But where oh where are the Mean Street Posse, and where's Gangrel? Entrances in this title are a step down from WrestleMania, though that is personal opinion. No Mercy's entrances consist of a wrestler walking out on stage, doing some kind of taunt, either with or without a manager, then making their way to the ring before it fades out. WrestleMania's entrances consisted of a wrestler taunt on the ramp, a taunt inside the ring, but for time reasons this was just kinda a No Mercy completely, and is rather famously missing. An actual downgrade from one game to the next. No Mercy itself doesn't actually include a health bar of any kind, something that would become a very important piece of tech for most wrestling games after this, giving you, the player, a location to hit repeatedly. Now, although it's important to know which part you've been hitting the most, as you can weaken certain body parts, causing their head to bleed, your opponent to limp, or sever their torso if damaged enough. Instead of that, you have a meter that, as the match rages on, changes based on your performance and how much offense you get or take. What you want is a red meter, with excitement being at its topmost. Whereas if your bar is blue, that means you're probably on your way to losing. Now again, that being said, once it gets to a fever pitch within the match, a quick taunt to the crowd allows you to enter a state for a certain amount of time where you can score a finisher move as many times as you want. This normally can range from just the once or twice straight. The Aki-style is at its best here, having you hold the grapple button, normally located as a shoulder button, to score a light or heavy move, same with the strikes. Hold a strike down for a heavy strike and tap it for a light strike. Now the heavy ones are more high impact maneuvers or a wrestler's signature move, whereas the lighter ones are quicker and have a higher chance of success. The way to really put away an opponent under the Aki-style controls is to go for the kill. Any grandstanding messing around will result in you being rolled up, reversed and beaten rather quickly. Of course, as a wrestling fan, whilst playing, you may want the match to last a little longer. You may want to set up your favourite spot or something cool from the top rope, but this can ultimately lead to your undoing.
Oh no, he's going for the money shot! He's going for the money shot!
Oh,
he's
yeah.
wiggling! Will he make it?
Oh.
No!
Of course, you can hit a reversal and return, helping you build the momentum even quicker and faster with successful strikes and grapples that you hit. Taunting is always important. As soon as you can see an opening, a taunt is always a great way to build momentum when you feel it's not time to continue to attack your opponent, instead betting on the fact that you can get it in and get your momentum and finish your move first. That will be the fastest way for you to put away somebody that you're in the ring with. Look at this animation, look at it!
Oh yeah, the dick one?
That's insane!
It's the longest too.
The Aki-style gameplay is absolutely amazing in this title, with almost every wrestler feeling completely different to face off against, with people like Taz and Dean Malenko constantly out-wrestling you, going for submission attempts and building up to their finisher moves, to big power guys like Kane and Taker throwing you around the ring, to guys like Jeff Hardy looking for the next opportunity to hit a top rope maneuver. There are wrestlers whose AI have a speciality as such, as wrestling a Hardy in a ladder match is incredibly difficult, or wrestling a Holly Cousin in a hardcore match can also prove just as tricky. Every match feels somewhat unique and different. Wrestlers are all given their own interesting set of moves worth exploring. Defeating wrestlers quickly is the best feeling ever. Knowing how hard and how difficult a match can stretch out just gives an amazing relief. Putting someone away in around a minute with a couple straight finishes is without doubt the best way a match can go. Sure, wrestling for 10 minutes is cool, but it becomes a struggle, trying as hard as you can to turn back the tide, but compared to a quick squash with a quick finisher flurry, nothing comes close. When it comes to weapons, they feel good enough. They're still not knockout friendly, but after using the chair 100 times, the 101st time still feels just as good. Even better when you happen to knock blood out of your opponent as they fall to the mat and clutch at their now open wound. There's a ton of weapons in this game, with some even being locked behind a paywall, giving you something else to pay for with the money you earned for survival mode or the championship season mode that is available in this title. These include Cactus Jack's barbed wire 2x4, a giant foam hand, a fire extinguisher, a trash can, championship title, a steel chair, and even more than that. On top of the new additions, weapons this time around don't disappear or fly out from your hands after being used a set number of times, something that happened in Mania 2000. Now, on top of the new weapons added, WWF No Mercy also includes a ton of backstage arenas to fight in, something that wasn't available in WrestleMania at all, but had already become a staple of wrestling games from around this time, making an appearance in both WWE Mayhem and SmackDown. There's a few different places here, including a bar, a parking lot, and the top of the arena's ramp, which is a different, higher poly version of the entrance that you see from the ring, fairly similar to SmackDown. There's nothing too interactable here, unfortunately, and nothing really stands out. That is apart from the tables that can be found in the locker room, a strange addition. Now, it's incredibly easy for me to say all of this, being somebody who has played made this title exclusively emulated for the last 15 years, having only played No Mercy at a friend's house for less than 5 minutes in my life 24 years ago. So looking over people's opinion at the time, especially given at IGN's now double-decade-old review, it's interesting to see how people really felt at the time. IGN's reviewer Blake Norton wrote that the speed diminishes rapidly when there were 3 or more wrestlers on the screen at once, meaning that Royal Rumbles often played in slow motion and that tag team ladder matches were basically considered murder. Whilst No Mercy isn't packed with game modes, there's definitely enough there to fulfill the appetite of any wrestling fan, especially in 2000. Whilst the menu itself looks fairly bare, the deeper options are hidden within the create a match screen, especially meaning you can add modifiers to all sorts of matches, essentially having you choose your amount of people, then deciding what will end the match. So triple threat submission matches, fatal 4-way, first blood and tag team knockouts are all available. On top of this, there's the King of the Ring mode, a staple of most wrestling titles from around this time, and the create a pay-per-view mode. There's the newest addition, the ladder match, which includes the incredible retrieve the bag sell that Jeff Hardy became famous for from the No Mercy event in 1999. Now there's the cage match making its return, but this Nintendo 64's final wrestling title doesn't include the Hell in a Cell, casket, tables, or any form of TLC. Now obviously the TLC match made its debut in August, but the table tag team match made its debut at the Rumble in 2000. Hell in a Cell though? Quite a daunting match to try and pull off, especially on the Nintendo 64 ROM, and probably wasn't really introduced to WWF gamers until 2002's yearly release. The Royal Rumble is hard, especially so if you are given a low number, just brutally difficult. The graphics in most N64 games are fairly similar from game to game, with most of these titles having to develop their own style in order to fit in. The game can't go straight for realism, as it just can't hold up when compared directly to its competition, especially the Dreamcast. Now don't view this as a negative, it's definitely something that made the Nintendo 64 stand out and has made nearly every Nintendo 64 game that came out in the last 25 years completely timeless and replayable. So what does that mean for No Mercy? Well, unlike SmackDown and the acclaimed titles that came beforehand, No Mercy continued to stick to what made the Aki titles unique, and didn't stretch an image of a wrestler over a model, instead making a cartoon-like handmade texture with each wrestler's likeness and face, giving you the overall vibe of who a wrestler is, whilst matching their overall behaviour and taunts to nail down who a wrestler really is. Apart from Triple H, I have no idea what this face is about. It's the worst face texture of all time. Triple H's No Mercy face texture is the worst texture in this video. The backstage assault textures were a terrible attempt from a dying company in a bad game. This is one of the best games ever made, so it means more. But Triple H's bad face aside, the overall look of the HUD in matches, the attitude, style, time on screen, ring textures and audience all look excellent. The Royal Rumble arena looks sweet, and the WrestleMania arena expertly recreates the look of the lame duck look the arena had to represent. The textures used during the entrances look quite good, and the fire effects and pyro are top notch. The Titantrons are of incredible poor quality, but again, given the limitations of the system, that's totally forgivable. Overall, the look on each person's face is still fairly decent, but there are exceptions to that rule. People like Grandmaster Sexy with a constant look of orgasm across his face for the entirety of his appearance in this title, and other people like Crash Holly just having an overall passable look. But given the absolute size of this roster, it's still an incredible feat. Overall, an easy 90% of people in this game look just as good as they should. Of course, it does mean that people like The Undertaker are fairly let down by their appearance, rather than looking silly as they awkwardly make their way down the ringside. As for the music in this title, WWF No Mercy has some timeless jams that, even after all this time, still haven't become overly tired or used too much. Much like the soundtrack to WCW NWO Revenge, you can still today hear people constantly using music from these titles in all of their videos, and let's face it, it still holds up. Unfortunately, though not unexpected, it really would have been going out there. Outside of the intro video to the game itself, there is no lines of dialogue found at any point in time during this game. It's not something that we needed, not overly missing, and let's face it, take a shot every time you hear me say this, but due to the limitations of the console, it just wasn't something that was going to be included. So no commentary, fine. The theme music is passable at best, terrible at worst, but at least every single wrestler has their own kind of theme song, unlike WCW NWO Revenge, which had a terrible mix of weird, overly dubbed theme songs. The music of WWF No Mercy is unmatched, and a lot of people definitely consider it their favourite menu song of all time. I'd be hard pressed to prove anybody wrong in having that opinion. It's a sweet track that changes and morphs as you move around the menu screen, something very innovative for the time. The SmackDown More theme that plays whilst you shop is also great, sums up the whole experience. It's great elevator style music as you browse for your next unlock. The season mode for sure is the highlight of this title, and the thing that will keep you coming back for more. This time around, the former season mode, seen previously in WrestleMania 2000, is completely abandoned, leaving behind the lifelike entire card represented in that game in favour for a non-linear series of events taking place around your character primarily, becoming more alike WCW NWO Revenge's Championship mode, which makes sense given the title of this game's mode is actually just now called Championship. After choosing to go after a championship, you're shown the 7 available titles that were all represented and seen on television from around this time. The World Heavyweight Championship, by default, is held by Triple H. Now, season mode for each championship is different enough to be interesting through different playthroughs, but finding out little things like this is always really interesting. If you win the Royal Rumble, despite whoever you may choose to play as, you'll basically be role-playing as The Rock going forward, having whoever you have chosen basically repeating The Rock's lines in the build-up to WrestleMania from 2000. If you happen to lose the Royal Rumble or don't even qualify, you'll be thrust into the story of Mankind/Cactus Jack, building up to challenging for Triple H's title, meaning that essentially there is a fluid default champion in this title before you finish the championship story for the first time. It's pretty wild. Now, what keeps people coming back to this game is the story itself and the warning given at the start of each one. Whether you win or lose your matches, the game will continue. The story in No Mercy is like a bonsai tree with its roots stretching out before you. If you cut one path, another one will present itself, much like in real life, meaning that although you have failed once, it doesn't ultimately mean the end of the road. There's always another path that you can take in order to get to your goal at the end. Of course, Championship mode isn't always fair, much like real life WWF, although you may find yourself with the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship, for example, winning a hard-fought back-and-forth matchup. The title may immediately be stripped from you just moments later, a total gut shot after such a victory. Of course, because you won such match with Dean Malenko, the path continues forward, giving you another chance to go up against a champion somewhere else down the line. Now, this gives you some great backstage interactions between other wrestlers and leads to some hilarious-looking segments that can play out. Of course, the story can twist in other weird directions, with you choosing if you wish to play through the Women's Championship role as a Mao, or even win the Light Heavyweight title with Viscera. Now, in the middle of the Light Heavyweight Championship story mode, I was given the chance to tag with Crash Holly to apparently go for the tag team titles. Unfortunately, I lost, again. Losing every match since being screwed out of the Light Heavyweight Championship sent me on another story route. Taz confronted me backstage and then beat my ass for 6 minutes, submitting me at ringside. Unfortunately, I was granted a rematch and beat him half to death with a piece of table. So fast forward to Survivor Series, on the Light Heavyweight Championship path. The owner of the WWF is in the ring. Apparently, he saw my amazing fight with Taz that went a minute and a half and demanded that Dean give me a rematch that I wanted. I had another hard-fought match against him after attempt of me coming off the top rope and landing straight onto Dean's knees. I finally hit a Phoenix Splash and won the Light Heavyweight Championship. So what's next? Well, with Jeff now as the Light Heavyweight Champion, there's an option to continue the story by selecting Jeff again, having him enter a story where you're tasked with defending the championship in another unique story mode. Also, as the title now has a champion, it can be competed for at any time in exhibition. On top of that, I walk away with an abysmal $2,800 in cash ready to spend at the SmackDown Mall. The Hardcore Championship storyline having you essentially take the role of Crash Holly. This of course eventually leads to the APA, the most dreaded fight of the Hardcore story mode. 2 dudes with one goal, to beat you half to death. Double team after double team, and unfortunately for them, they don't know about Steve motherfucking Blackman. Using the amazingly placed trailer at the back, it's easy enough to hide and build up your finisher. Then, using Blackman's badass chokeout, you can take out either Bradshaw or Farouk fairly easily. Still quite stressful, I'm not gonna lie. Even more stressful is the immediate return match that came straight after, having another 2 guys jump poor Steve Blackman. It's all good, I got the trailer trick down. So it's time for the Hardcore title's final challenge, a match against the Hardcore legend himself, Cactus Jack. It's pretty sweet to go one-on-one with Mick at the Royal Rumble in 2000, probably Cactus Jack's most iconic moment in the USA, and definitely the most iconic moment for that face of Foley. Anyways, just another victim for the motherfucking dojo's Steve Blackman. Now, the main thing that keeps people interested in Championship mode itself is the overall complete percentage. My first run of the Hardcore Championship, winning each match, gave me just 14% of the overall completion rating, meaning that losing every other match, or just going straight losing throughout, would give me a totally different story than what I saw the first time through. Of course, adding to this would be the ability to defend said championship. If I went through defending the Light Heavyweight title, for example, it would add to the overall completion again as it would another story percentage added. Same with losing the title immediately, fighting throughout the rest of the story in order to regain said title. It's all different, it's all interesting, and it's super engaging. The season mode isn't without its flaws though. There are quite a few strange mistranslations that take place throughout. After losing my championship to S.A. Rios, I am then stripped of the title. A tournament is announced and I win my first match. Taka Michinoku, who to be fair, may have been confused, confronts me stating that I've only defended my championship once. True? No? Season mode does continue to throw a spanner into the works in a lot of different matches, especially important ones. Big matches often include run-ins by multiple people, not as bad as the Rumble itself, but story important people will often run down to ringside and attack you mid-title match, adding to the stress of each season finale. It would seem as though the best way to truly get rid of them is just to hit a finisher move, and if you're lucky enough or hitting multiple drop kicks from the top rope, this will force them out of the ring and they won't return. That being said, after my second run through the Light Heavyweight Championship, losing my first match and then winning the remaining matches gave me another 24% in the Light Heavyweight title's completion rating. So anyway, let's take a look at Mankind's run for the World Heavyweight Championship. Apparently there's a new era in 2000, a Paul Lever, Triple H era, and that'll never catch on. The promo here is about the McMahon-Helmsley era. Sucking is 100% a Mankind/Rock promo from the early 2000s. And once again, Triple H's cutscene, now making perfect sense with both The Rock and Mankind in the ring, calls for a pink slip on a pole match. A match that, yeah, really happened. This is where the story will get a little weird though. In real life, The Rock won this matchup, meaning Mankind was fired from the WWF. Oh, and then we get the amazing matchup of Steven Richards taking on Triple H for the title. Our goal at this point is to make sure that Steven Richards wins the belt. Hilarious feat indeed. What? Steven Richards? Well, in case you didn't know the amazing story behind this, the truth is, well, it was meant to be the Big Show present in this role, but due to his increased weight and overall sluggish appearance around WrestleMania season, he was completely cut from this title and replaced by Steven Richards. To my disappointment though, Steven Richards wins the match but doesn't capture the title. Boo. Then there's another handicap match, a hard one, real fucking hard. The Road Dogg and Billy Gunn take you on in a 2-on-1 handicap match, and if anybody interferes, they're fired. Now, in an awesome twist, The Rock makes his return. See, he can't be fired if you're already fired. Very clever. Now, honestly, I struggled for an hour before I just had to turn cheats on. Fuck the handicap matches in this game. They're just real difficult. Now, after a couple more short matches, the Street Fight Royal Rumble takes place between Mankind and Triple H, which again is very interesting as you win the match. But because Road Dogg interfered in a street fight, you lose. God, I feel like I'm playing SmackDown vs. Raw 2011. I'm not even there yet. Now, which is even more interesting is that the match that takes place here is billed as a career match. And again, that works out, but it's a cage match. Career versus title in a cage match. Because we don't have Hell in the Cells. See, this is essentially the No Way Out 2000 story where Triple H challenged Mankind to a career match. Again, it makes sense on some levels, but we don't actually have Hell in the Cells, so it's a cage match. So Triple H rushed his little ass out of the cell, so I guess I'm losing. Man, cage matches are huge in this game. And yes, like what actually happened, Linda McMahon comes out, announces that Triple H will defend his title in a 4-way, including Steven Richards, The Rock, and Mankind. Not Mick Foley, which is weird. Nevertheless, Mankind's road to WrestleMania and the WWF Championship is quite a fun one. But yeah, a bit more linear than what I had initially thought. WWF No Mercy really does go down as one of the best wrestling video games to ever exist. It really does define what Aki had built over a really long amount of time from all the WCW titles and then the 2 WWF titles that obviously came up. Now, this isn't the last game on any of my lists that we'll see from Aki, which is great, but considering what Aki came up with here, it would have been amazing to see what they would have come up with going forward. I think they would have done amazing things for the GameCube, and maybe if they had been given the license on PlayStation, they could have done something even better. But all of that to say, like, WWF No Mercy is definitely worth your time and definitely worth dipping into today. You should check this title out if you have never actually played it before. It really does live up to all the hype around it.